Anyone that has taken any of my classes prior know that deep breathing is something that I always talk about. So I have found a way to put it in this class. Deep breathing, I would call a physical technique. Okay. But let's go over why I start with breathing first. Breathing exercises in general are a great way to relax and reduce tension and relieve stress. But what's very interesting, at least when I discovered it, oh, I say maybe about a year ago when I was putting together this class, that the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs along the heart, this is, a picture of the heart or an image of the heart, and this is the vagus nerve. One of the many things that the vagus nerve does, and what I'm going to be talking about today, is it slows the heart rate down. Now you might say, why would I want to do that? Well, if you are anxious, nervous, um, worried, your heart rate is a little higher than it would be if you were not feeling those things. About 6 months ago, I started wearing an Apple Watch. And one of the many things that it does is you always can see your heart rate, your beats per minute. I know there are other smart watches that can do the same thing, so it's not only Apple Watch. And what I have noticed is, let's say I hang up from a stressful conversation or something that I might have seen or something that's worrying me, my heart rate is a little higher. It could actually be 20 to 30 beats higher than my resting heart rate, where I'm just calm. Maybe I'm at my desk working, reading a book. So the thing about why this is important, because if your heart rate rises, your blood pressure can also rise. And if you're in a cycle of anxiety, then this means that you're constantly, the heart rate is constantly going faster than it needs to be if you're just sitting and relaxing or watching TV. But if you're sitting, relaxing, watching TV, and you're worried, that heart rate is up. So, why is this important? Well, there's a way that you can breathe. It's a deep breathing technique that will allow you to access the vagus nerve and therefore allow you to let the vagus nerve do what it naturally does, which is to slow the heart rate down. So when you learn how to breathe in this manner, you have your own way to regulate how you handle stress, how you handle anxiety. Now, the way that you breathe in order to trigger the vagus nerve is actually very simple. Your exhale should be longer than your inhale. So what do I mean by that? The inhale, first of all, should be through the nose, and the exhale should be through the mouth. When you want to access the vagus nerve, you inhale, let's say for a count of three, you're counting to yourself, 1, 2, 3, in whatever pace you choose. And when you exhale out of the mouth, you count to five. It's a ratio. Now, I chose 3 and 5 because that's normally a good um a good average breathing rate for most people. F inhaling to a count of 3 and exhaling to a count of 5. If that feels too much for you or too difficult, you can inhale for a count of 2 and exhale for a count of 4. So, what I'm showing you here is that if your exhale is a little longer than your inhale, you're accessing the vagus nerve. I want to take this opportunity to say, welcome, Glenda. I never really see other Glendas in my classes. So, welcome, welcome. How are you today?
Quite well, thank you.
Okay.
I'm very intrigued by your discussion.
Okay.
It's very practical, but yet scientific based.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, it is scientific, and yes, that's I get into that a little bit more in another class. But breathing, just to touch on it, we may not think about it unless we have if we're having difficulty breathing, or unless we're learning deep breathing practices on purpose. But the act of breathing, bringing that oxygen into the body is like fuel, because that oxygen comes through the lungs, it goes, attaches to the blood cells, goes through the body, which means it goes through all the body systems, the organs, but it also then converts to carbon dioxide. So we have this whole science experiment going on in our bodies, depending upon which system you want to look at. And just like if you don't get enough, if you don't have enough gas in your car, you you know, when you get close to running out of gas, maybe some things might not work correctly, or you don't have the right amount of fluids in your car. It might not work correctly. Well, if you're not bringing in the right amount of oxygen into your body, other things may happen. Today, we're going to address stress. So before I show you all how to do this breathing technique, I want you to do the following. I want you to think about something that's really, 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 really stressful, something that causes you anxiety. Yes, I'm giving you permission to think about it, something that worries you, something that makes you nervous. I want you to think about that now. I give you a few minutes to get for you to get it into your mind. Okay. Can you give me a thumbs up? You either can use the reactions. A thumbs up is yes, or you can type yes in the chat box. If you have identified some, Glenda is like, yes, right away. If you've identified what's something that's causing you a lot of stress and anxiety. Thank you, Tita.
This is Melba, and yes.
Okay, thank you, Melba. Thank you, Barb. How about Marlene and Layla? I hope I said it correctly. Please correct me, Layla, if I said it incorrectly. Have you identified that stressful issue?
Yes.
Okay, great, great. So now that you've identified it, thank you, Marlene. This is what I want you to do. And when you get the answer to the question that I'm about to ask you, don't second guess it. Wherever answer comes up, take that first answer, okay? I want you to think about the level of stress. If you had to give it a number from 0 to 10, what would represent your level of stress in this particular thing that I asked you to identify? You don't have to tell me the number, you just have to let me know when you have the number. You can keep it to
I have it.
yourself. Okay, good.